I'm a big fan of leadership styles. I'm a big fan of, looking at people and how they approach communication with teammates, superiors, subordinates. And Charles Barkley had something to say about Devin Booker and his role in terms of leadership and the Suns.
He's a terrific player.
He was perfect on Team USA. He's been the best player on a finals team, right? That was 3 years ago.
Yes. But the whole dynamic of the team changed when KD and Bill came there.
Yeah.
So now they got to have leadership. He's got to take the leadership role because I think he's reluctant because people assume that KD's the best player. I said, but your best player don't have to. Kevin has said he doesn't want to be a leader. He just want to play basketball. And I challenged Booker last year, and they got mad. I said, Suns don't have any leadership. They don't have a style of play. And they got mad, which I don't care. But I said, it's got to be Booker. He's going to take a serious leadership role because people are going to
maybe it'll happen.
People gonna listen to him because he's a great player, but he's got to become more of a leader, got to be more of a vocal leader.
I 1,000,000% agree with Charles in this regard. I think Devin Booker learned a lot about himself last year because I can imagine it would be a little difficult when you have Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal on your team, and they have also, in an indirect kind of way, have either been a vocal leader or just a leader that people look up to in terms of their performances on the court and how they represent themselves. And I think both are true with Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant, But Devin Booker, to me, should be the leader of this team. And I think over the course of last year, he saw some things that I think he learned from, in my estimation. And I don't know if you have any further insight into that, but I truly believe that Devin Booker is going to take a little bit more of a leadership role vocally and more demonstratively from the outside perspective. When you're watching a game, you can clearly see who is in charge or who is the leader of the team. And it doesn't necessarily mean that he needs to eliminate other people from speaking up. I don't think that's what we're talking about. It's just who's the one that you can go to and be accountable. It's kind of like when the referees ask who's the speaking captain. Devin Booker would be the speaking captain.
Well, I think when you're talking about leader, you're talking about vocal leader. Because on a basketball team, you have all types of leaders in a number of capacities. So you're talking about a vocal leader. Because Kevin Durant leads by example of how he plays on the court,
absolutely,
and how he focuses. His uniform is on every game. He tries to put it on despite what he's gone through over the last number of years with injury. That's leadership. Another form of leadership was Bradley Beal last year, where he had to change his game because he couldn't be the Bradley Beal that was in Washington, so he had to change his game. Well, other guys see that. They see, oh, okay, Bill's changing his, so I can't complain about my change in scenery in regards to my role on the team. So every player has a leadership responsibility. Guys at the end of the bench that doesn't play much, they need to show leadership because when a guy comes out of the game, a lot of times that guy comes out of the game happy or sad or mad. One of them three. And if he's happy, you first one up. Hey, man. If he's sad, pick him up. You got it. Be ready next time. If he's mad, hey, man, come on down here. What's going on? Man, I don't like he took me out of the game and then not getting me the ball. You show leadership down there. So on every team, everybody has an opportunity to be a leader. The practice habits. Guy doesn't play a lot. But in practice, this dude is leading the charge on the second unit, pushing everybody, making them play hard, making the starters play hard. That's leadership. And then vocal leadership is a guy that takes total control and he oversees everything and he talks above everyone else. As you said, I don't think Kevin enjoys that situation, but Devin could be that guy. Bradley Beal could be that guy. Nurkic could be that guy. You know why Nurkic could be that guy? Strongest dude on the team. Like that intimidation factor. Does he have that in him? So it's a lot of guys that can be leaders. So I wouldn't just put it on Devin's plate. I would just say that from a vocal leader standpoint, it would be great if it was Devin. It would be great if it was KD. It'd be great if it was Bill. But a lot of times on a lot of teams, that's just not the case, man.
Yeah, I get you, but listen, they're the faces of the organization, and they're the ones that are going to have to speak the most about what's going on the court. So inevitably, you have to, if you're Devin Booker, to some degree, you have to take on that role, because we saw it last year. How many times was he asked about what's going on with the Suns, or what's wrong here, or what's wrong there? So inadvertently, he's going to be the representative, and KD, and I think one of them is going to have to step up in terms of being a little bit more vocal on the court, holding guys accountable. And I think, especially when you weren't getting that, in my estimation, from the coaching staff, like it just didn't look like there was a lot of accountability on that side of things. They were a good team. They won 49 games. That's fantastic. But what could have been better? What could have been more improved? And I think Devin Booker has a large role in that, because he's the face of the franchise.
Well, I mean, from a perfection standpoint, if you had to take somebody, you would like to say that. And I would like to see if Devin can be more aggressive this year and be that guy, that vocal leader. But I'm saying to you, you can't do it and not be real. Like, you can't just give it to somebody and think that they're going to immerse themselves into it. If they're not comfortable doing it, it's going to sound corny when they try to lead.
Sure.
And then that makes it worse. So you have to really have an idea of what it takes to be a leader. I just remember, man, I was scoring all the points in Kansas City, taking all the shots, but I was not a good leader. And I couldn't understand why guys were mad at me, because I was taking shots, a lot of shots, and, taking 18 to 20 shots. And Rich Kelly, a guy, white guy, went to the University of Stanford, played in the NBA, he grabbed me. And he said, Eddie, you got to be a better leader, man. And he just told me, he said, look, you all get on me all the time because I'm always staring at people. He said, look, you got to stare and figure people out. He said, that's my motto. I was taught that. And he says, you don't do that. You really into yourself. And I happened to be sitting next to him on a plane, and he talked to me about that. And he said, Eddie, just start studying guys, and then you'll know how to approach them. He says, think about it. You snap back at guys when they say something to you and get on you. And I said, yeah. He said, but you never snap back at me. That's what he said. He said, I get on you, but you don't snap back at me. And I said, yeah, because you balance it. Like, exactly. He said, I balanced it. He said, I watched you, I observed you, I figured out how to approach you as everybody on his team. And when the time came and I had to say something to you, you took it, because you know why? Because I was that first guy up off the bench grabbing you, say, Eddie, great job, man, way to play. Coming over, giving you that. You remember that stuff. So now, if I do say something to you, you will accept it. And you got to be willing to embrace that. So Devin just can't take it. Like, and I wish Charles had talked about that part of it, because he was that kind of leader. Charles was unbelievable, man. He's one of the best teammates I ever had. When I got to Houston after, getting out of Denver, forcing him to waive me, and I got to Houston, you know what? 2 weeks later, I turned, I think, 38 years old or something like that. Charles said, hey, Eddie, come on down to this restaurant, man. Meet up with us, man. We was down at this restaurant. I walk in the restaurant, half the team, most of the team is in there, and he got a birthday party for me.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of stuff, man. So if that's not in Devin, we can't force it on him. But somebody on that team has to take that responsibility, and that's going to be important.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not. It doesn't always have to be the star player, and I totally get that. And I do like your points. And let me ask you this. To me, I don't know. I'm not trying to say that I was built different or anything like that. But clearly, when you got to Kansas City, there was a role, and then you had to grow into being the leader, or somebody had to point it out. And for me, like, I've always felt like it didn't really take me long to be quote unquote a leader in most of the positions I've ever found myself in, just because I felt like it's always been inside of me. Like, I look forward to doing that. I look forward to helping people more than anything else. And servant leadership, in my opinion, is some of the best kind of leadership, because you're doing it with your counterparts. and you're trying to find ways for them to improve more than yourself. And I think Devin Booker's, opportunity right now, because he showed that he provided a form of servant leadership when in the Olympics, because he sacrificed his own stuff for the greater good, and he made the sound basketball play in order for the team to win a gold medal. And I think that's the best example of leadership that you can find. That is very, very obvious to me. And I think that's something that he can learn from in the Olympics and bring over to the Suns. I look forward to it because I feel like we're going to see a different kind of Devin Booker than maybe we've seen the previous, 9 years.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, Devin, he showed leadership this summer in that regard. But the vocal part is the hardest, man.
Yeah.
Because you got to put a lot of effort into that. And I learned to do it. I know how to get people to move. You know it. I get you to move, and I'm not being funny with it. Like, I'll come in every morning and I probably didn't sleep well, but you never see me lacking energy. You never see me, because if it's a team, then I got to push you regardless. Like, I learned that. You got to have energy to be able to do that, man. And so that's why I say everybody can't be a leader. It's great followers. Trust me, they got an owner with the Clippers right now. He was a follower. He followed Bill Gates out of college early, and he's one of the richest men in the world right now. Okay, so that's the point. It's like leaders are not easy to find, but you got to be willing to embrace it. And I'm hoping that Devin does. I hope that KD does his part. I hope that Nurk does his part. See, to me, the one guy on that team that I could probably say, Now, Plumlee is going to show leadership. You know where he's going to show it? Dude's going to outwork everybody. In this dude's career, I've never seen him not work hard. So right there, that's leadership, right? Obviously, Tyus Jones, to me, has a great opportunity to be that leader, because he's the one that's got to distribute that ball, and he's the one that's got to tell KD, look, man, I know you were open. He was open too. And you know what? He hadn't gotten a shot in a while. I got to get him going. If he said that to KD like, okay, I got you. I think a point guard is really the one that should be able to do it. And Tyus Jones has been around the league long enough now to be that guy. And so I just don't want people to just put it all on one guy like Devin and say, oh, he should be the leader. Yeah, face of the franchise. He's been here forever. He grew up here as a basketball player for the Phoenix Suns, so you would like him to be that guy. But he does enough. He's great in the community. He's very courteous to people. All those things he does do. But we can't force him to be a vocal leader.
No,
you can't do it. It will sound corny. I had some guys tried to be leaders. Man, I was like, man, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. It's not you. And they come off gruff, and so it's a different animal. Kurt Rambis was a leader on our team in the 90s when we were going to Western Conference Finals. Kurt Rambis was a leader, and Kevin Johnson too. But my point is, Kurt was a leader because he won championships. He had a cynical way of talking to you, which you had to get used to. But then once you figured it out, it was okay and you loved him. It's that kind of guy sometimes, man. It doesn't always necessarily have to be one of the best players on the team.
Listen, I don't think I would ever say that about Devin Booker if I hadn't seen it for myself in terms of his ability to be a leader. Like, I know he's vocal. Like, I know he's vocal behind the scenes too. Like, I know in practice he can be vocal. Like, I've seen it firsthand. Like, so I know it's there. And also, like, his demeanor and his approach commands respect. It just does. Devin Booker is, like, if you didn't know who Devin Booker was, and this is one of the best things about what they used to say about Michael Jordan, right? Like, if you didn't know who Michael Jordan was, and you met him, you knew, like, oh, that's somebody. Like, you just know that's somebody. And that's how I feel about Devin Booker. If he walked in the room and nobody knew who he was, you would know that, like, okay, he's important. Somehow, some way, he's an important guy just because of the way he carries himself. And that caring of himself is a form of leadership, right? There's it commands respect.
Right.
And that's what I think that's why I feel like he has such an impact. And I think he's going to have an impact even more this year.
Right. So being on time, how you dress, how you speak to people,
How hard you work.
Yeah, well, those are all forms of leadership. But I think what Charles was talking about was a vocal leader. I think Charles was talking about sort of like me in Houston with him, Dream, and Clyde, when they were fighting for that left block all the time and they'd get into it. They needed somebody like me and Kevin Willis to say, man, stop. Stop, man. Like, we called a meeting with them three one time. Had all me and Kevin Willis and Mario Elie had all three of them in a room. And we was like, man, you all got to stop. Like, we weren't, but those are three Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Here we are, above average players, but we're not Hall of Fame players, great players like they were. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you have to be willing to be able to do it, but do it in a way that just doesn't turn anybody off. And like I said, if Devin is not comfortable with that, there's many other ways he can lead that can help this team. And then a vocal guy can step up. And I happen to believe that guy should be Tyus Jones. He's on a contract year. He's going to try to prove himself this year. Obviously, he did the Suns a favor by taking the money that he did to come here. And so he has a great opportunity to lift these guys up. So he'll face a crazy payday if he's lifted them up and the Suns get out of the Western Conference. I mean, to me, it should be on his plate, but all of those guys should have a form of leadership. Yes.
We all silly like the mayor.